John, you got something to play for us?
Yeah, I play. Yeah, got that.
Play for us?
Yeah.
Hey, ladies and germs. Welcome to John and Ben's Bacchanalia, Episode 7, Neon Versace Edition.
John, why are we doing this?
This was your idea, Ben.
All right, yeah, it's true. So, I was reading, I was digging through some Twitter feeds, going down some rabbit holes. You know, everybody surfs the internet that way. And I came up with this description that producer Lil Internet wrote about a music video he made for the song Cerebral by, who is it by? Boys Noise and Pylo. Anyway, interesting music video, interesting song, you should check it out. But what was more interesting to me was this thing that he wrote about it. And he says, Google Cardboard had been recently released when I was concepting, so VR was on my mind. I also often think about theories Baudrillard posited in Simulation and Simulacra about hyperreality and the copy replacing the original. Originally, the simulated world of the internet had to be colonized, so to speak, with ideas and imagery from the real world. It's a simplification, but flow was reality making a copy of itself in the virtual. We are beginning to see that flow reversed, where things from the simulated world of the internet are colonizing real life. An example I use a lot is the rapper RiFF RaFF. Here's a character that's a product of the virtual through music videos, reality TV, and World Star that colonized the real-life original. If you've ever met RiFF RaFF, you know that he's not playing a character. The online avatar colonized whoever the real person in the body was entirely.
After Ben read me that, we spent a little bit of time doing some background research on RiFF RaFF.
Digging through the files.
Trying to figure out who is this Versace enigma, this Gucci mystery.
This terrible, terrible person.
Shut up, Ben.
Yeah, he's not that bad. But,
in case you guys haven't figured out yet, we are talking RiFF RaFF tonight.
Yes.
RiFF RaFF, Houston-based rapper, media icon, all-around meme person.
Internet Gatsby. Self-made man of the modern era.
Yes.
So, a potential colonization site for the internet itself, if you believe this.
He might actually be some form of internet avatar, just brought into the real world, 80s sci-fi movie style.
Terminator. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like that theory because it got me thinking. Because a lot of people think that his thing is performance art, and that at some point he just drops the character of this Southern twang white hip hop star. And just becomes his normal person, but in fact, he never actually does.
Yeah, we read through a couple, interviews and, statements made by people who've known RiFF RaFF for a long time. Family members, childhood friends, people he knew in the Houston rap game while he was coming up. And they all said the same thing. This is not a character. RiFF RaFF, as we see him, is the real RiFF RaFF. And that raises some interesting questions about things we talked about. Authenticity, identity, memes.
I mean, the man has MTV tattooed on his neck.
And BET. This is a white man with the BET logo tattooed on him.
Which, in my personal opinion, should not be allowed to happen.
It's, yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, there are, like... I can say my personal opinion, but at this day and age, there's no reason to make a rule against that. Everything can be, like, re-put somewhere else. And I think RiFF RaFF understands this, so...
Yeah. I don't really know where to start with this, Ben. Like...
Well, let's start at the very beginning.
All right.
It's a very good place to start.
Go fuck yourself.
I don't even know
the next time for your sass.
I don't even know what the next line of the song is.
I don't know.
Do you know it, John?
No, I don't.
All right, fine.
I don't even know what song you're talking about.
It's the Do Re Mi song from Sound of Music. Start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. RiFF RaFF's real name is Horst Christian Simcoe. And he's from like a suburb in Texas.
A suburb of Houston, Texas. I believe Copperfield, something like that. I've never been there, even though I live in Houston.
John's been on the street where he grew up.
I have been on Farm to Market 529, which is kind of apparently the main thoroughfare from RiFF RaFF's childhood home to downtown Houston, where I go to school.
And RiFF RaFF, or Horst Simcoe, growing up, was just a short, shy kind of dude.
Yeah,
liked to play basketball, read.
So that he was a quiet, bookish kid who just really liked to play basketball. But that is kind of where we lose track of RiFF RaFF.
Right, because...
after that, he becomes a complete mystery.
There are no photos of him in high school. They have one photo from his freshman year. And even the high school wouldn't verify if he graduated.
No one knows if he graduated or not. His dad says he graduated. RiFF RaFF said he did not graduate.
Right.
And the high school will not confirm or deny it. There are also some people who said that he got his GED and went to Louisiana State to play basketball.
On a scholarship.
On a scholarship until he was cut off the team. However, when asked about it, the head of the athletics department at Louisiana University or wherever had no idea who he was. So maybe he wasn't there. No one knows. We know he went to community college for like a semester.
Right, and he painted cars.
Yeah, and then he went back to Houston and painted cars and started getting involved in the local hip-hop scene.
And he would, apparently he, sold drugs at one point. Some people think he sold X. And then when they asked him this, RiFF RaFF said he didn't want to comment, so not to incriminate himself.
So that's pretty much a yes.
And then the big moment is he found out about the MTV show From G's to Gents. Mm-hmm. It was all about turning rough street types and turn them into gentlemen, I guess. And he's like, this is my chance. And he went to the audition, flew himself to Atlanta on his own dollar, was asked to join the cast. And before they even started shooting, he got a tattoo of MTV on his neck.
And started calling himself MTV RiFF RaFF.
And thus, he was born. And supposedly, he didn't do very well on the show. Nobody bought his shtick. But all the viewers are like, who is the strange man that has a blacklit bedroom that says Pool Palace on the walls? Or Monopoly Skechers or whatever. Apparently his shoes look like Monopoly boards.
It's amazing.
And thus he then became a RiFF RaFF. And before he was sort of working on his rap, but at this point when he started getting famous, he actually was putting more time into it.
Yeah.
And he would make videos, he'd have collabs, he'd do this and that. He even rather cleverly put the From G's to Gents logo on most of his early YouTube videos.
So people could know that this is that RiFF RaFF.
And hopefully they would be directed through some, internet search algorithm.
Yeah.
And then just be like, oh yeah, I know
that
this
guy,
right.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, it's pretty much
it's kind of been a straight shot on up. Again, everything points to this being genuinely who he is, and that is what is both inspiring and terrifying about RiFF RaFF.
His brother works with him and says he's a hard worker, and he inspires him to do more. His Vine is crazy. I don't know if we spent some time checking on his Vine.
It was kind of scary. It was really surreal.
Yeah. most of his vines, and from vines to vines, and in the vines themselves, have these weird multiple planes of reality where Riff Raff is playing with himself as a person, Riff Raff as a persona, and then these weird characters like 5th grade school teachers and used car salesmen.
Good grades, Becca!
Great shot, James! And that one's entitled Things 5th Grade Teachers Say. And then there's one of him like wearing a suit and trying to sell you used cars. And like at one point he tells you to go buy these like smoothies from Dairy Queen. He's like, tell him Riff Raff sent you.
Yeah, the Chick-fil-A Pink Panther, Peach Panther hand-whipped milkshake.
Oh, God.
Tell them Riff Raff sent you so you get one for free. I don't know if that was actually a promotion. I could see it as being a thing. I really don't know.
His music is a series of like trap and ridiculous instrumentals over which he says just various absurd, surreal rhymes and non sequiturs that I think are meant to provoke humor, and some of them aren't funny. They're not. It's not all terrible. But when I first heard his music, I felt like he was simply just making a bunch of illusions and not really saying anything. Like it was either like it was like illusions to this, illusions to that. He like smells like a Power Ranger after getting back from the club. You know, like I'm sure John can supply several examples off the top of his head.
You know, unlike Ben, I really am a Riff Raff fan. I can't really quantify why for you.
Wait, well, so if you watch the John and I are big fans of the Needle Drop. He did a 5-minute review of Riff Raff's big debut.
Friend of the show, Anthony Fantano, the meme.
Well, he also did a show where he talked about Neon Icon, and he said that one of the things that Riff Raff, I think, is meant to do is you're supposed to just gawk at him. You're just like, who is this strange man? What is he saying? Is he for real? And that's part of the appeal. He doesn't ever play it straight. He never plays it straight in his vines. He doesn't play it straight in real life.
I mean, again, but what is playing it straight? I think that's a question that Riff Raff, makes us ask ourselves.
Well, to him, it's clear. Getting money and being famous.
That's one of the things the article says, is that, Riff Raff doesn't really care about the music at some level. He just decided that music was the best way for him to become famous.
Well, originally he was intrigued of the idea of being famous and having money. Much like how Gatsby needs to get money so that he can get Daisy back.
Yeah.
He's not in it for the money so much as he is it so that he can get Daisy. For Riff Raff, the money and the fame are the end result.
Which, there's something almost, endearingly straightforward about that. What I like about Riff Raff is that he, even though, he raises these questions, about whether or not this is all real, I do feel like he's a fairly authentic person. I don't feel like he's lying to me about why he's doing this. He doesn't...
Right, he's not,
pussyfoot around the fact that he is in this because he wants, money and
he wants
fame
the Aquamarine
and
bus.
Yeah, it's not one of these things where he's always talking about how he struggled and, how hard it was for him. And, some people, Drake...
riding through the six with my woes.
But yeah, I like how just straightforward Riff Raff is, and he does just have an undeniable charisma to him that
I guess
is impressive. I mean, just the fact that he's been able to do this. Again, this is a man who just recreated himself from scratch, and has become just completely slipped into this new identity and made the world accept it.
But what does that say about the world? What does it say about the world is so eager to just take up this person that it's just essentially all of these memes, if you will, images, just a weird playing relationships. Is he for real? And he just made this person, and now he's just doing his thing, making money. That just
we like to gawk at things.
That concerns me, John. I mean,
why?
I'm not concerned for Riff Raff. I mean, he's obviously a smart dude. He knows what's up. But just the fact that he can get away with it, I feel like he's just making it at least Gatsby had class and style.
What is class and style? Define that for me. Unpack that statement.
It's not even that existent in the novel.
It's just those are just memes, Ben. Those are just memes you've attached more value to than Riff Raff has.
Well, I mean, maybe not. Maybe Gatsby isn't the best comparison. but I'd rather he be somebody else. Like, if he was like, I don't know.
This isn't a very good counter argument, Ben. This is a terrible counter argument.
I don't know where I was going. All right, with the Gatsby thing. All right, I don't know. Like, I feel like that. I don't know. There's something about.
What do you want from Riff Raff?
What do I want from Riff Raff? I don't know.
I'm happy with Riff Raff the way he is.
Yeah, and
I find it inspiring.
I don't know. I don't want anything from him, honestly. Like, he's not what I like in music. He's not what I like in personality. He's just I don't know. He's like a court jester.
What's wrong with it?
There's nothing wrong with the court jesters, but I rather prefer, like, the knight errants or the kings or the people that are like cleaning up afterwards and have all the fun, like, or the ones that do satanic rituals and they don't talk to anyone about it. Like,
I don't think you know much about medieval history, Ben.
Well, educate me then. There's got to be some of these people that I'm just talking about.
I mean, yes, those people exist. I don't know if they were Satanists.
Well, all right, maybe not. But
I still don't get this analogy.
Well, I've communicated to myself, which is all that matters. But
a meme, then.
Well, is Riff Raff a meme?
Yes,
but why is he a meme? Because he's an easily cultural reproducible unit of
because Riff Raff
something.
Riff Raff is not a person as we understand it. Riff Raff is a collection of images and ideas that looks like a person.
And but he has selected the ones that work the most.
True.
And he's selected the ones that I guess will get him money and fame and power.
He's still a meme.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to get into this, but my theory is that everyone is just memes. Riff Raff's just picked really interesting ones, whereas most people pick really boring memes.
But interesting is a meme, John, that you've made up.
True. That's true. That's very true, Ben.
But coming up with all of these meme concepts just seems so just dumb. Like, well, not dumb. It just they just like it. What makes me think of is just images that people just reproduce mindlessly.
That is how most society works.
Well, shouldn't it be better? Shouldn't there be thought? Shouldn't there be reflection?
Thought is a meme, Ben. Reflection is a meme.
No, it's not. That's a process. Thought and reflection
they
is a process.
They are memological
There are
processes.
differences between memes and processes, I think.
I don't think so.
For instance, you could turn one meme into another meme. Is that a meme?
Yeah.
This is reductio ad absurdum. There must be some giant god meme, then the all meme, the Brahma meme. Like, is that reality? Is
the one thing. It's the great meme from which all other memes emanate in Platonic philosophy.
This is John's pet theory. No one believes him. Richard Dawkins talks about memes, but he doesn't try to reduce everything to memes.
I mean, Dawkins is an idiot, but
I want to make the God meme photo, and I want it to post it online, and I want it to just destroy everything because it's so powerful. What selection of images, what cats or dolphins or, like, fishes wearing hats or, like, snakes wearing top hats will allow me to create the God meme so that I can control all of reality? Because this is what you're saying. This is what...
It's true. That is what I'm saying.
Then what is it, John? What does the God mean?
I don't know. It transcends all the other memes. Like, it requires mystical union to, like, come in contact with the highest meme.
I want to go back more to Riff Raff, though, as the self-made man. That's what I'm
okay, yeah, we can talk about that.
I want to know, is Riff Raff the Gatsby? Could I write a novel in clearly iPhone text speak and Twitter page and Facebook feed updates about Riff Raff's, like, rise to... where he is now?
I think so.
Would it be good?
Good as a meme.
Would it be good to you, John?
Yes.
I guess that's all we need.
I don't have high standards, though.
I don't think it'd be good. I think it'd be shit. But
why?
I don't know. I want
just because you don't connect with Riff Raff.
That's true.
You're not in his audience. Like.
Well, a lot of people are.
I know. Apparently. And those people would probably enjoy that book if they can read.
So are you saying that the majority of them cannot read?
You know, I'm not gonna. I don't want to incriminate myself.
Well, I don't know. It causes me to question what I guess a modern consciousness would be that would allow to either make Riff Raff, represent Riff Raff, recreate Riff Raff. And it's just kind of perplexing to me, and I don't know if I want to be a part of it per se.
I mean, I think that Riff Raff is... I'm not saying, like, Riff Raff is, like, this huge, important thing, but he definitely raises questions about how we construct an identity in the internet age.
Well, and there are other, I guess you could call them meme rappers, such as Lil B, other people that I think do things so that they can be either reproduced or create a big shock.
Like I think that the best example of that, I don't think it's actually Riff Raff. I think that it's Young Lean. If you're familiar with Young Lean, because
somewhat.
He has the whole Sad Boys thing. That I mean, Lil B has like a devoted fan base, but like the fan base itself isn't a meme the same way like Sad Boys are a meme.
What is Sad Boys?
And, like, that's what, like, Young Lean fans call themselves. And, like, they have, like, their own fashion trends.
What
and,
do
like,
they wear?
Aesthetics, like, bucket hats and tracksuits.
Are they, like, sad?
I don't know why they call themselves Sad Boys. I'm not a Young Lean fan, honestly.
Do they speak in, like, combinations of made-up languages?
I don't know.
Creole?
I don't really know. Young Lean is, like, Swedish.
Well, I was... Isn't it Creole and, like, this other sort of Icelandic language or something?
Creole is an Icelandic.
I think... I read somewhere that he uses, like, Creole words.
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a Young Lean... I am not a sad boy.
Yeah, the only Young Lean I really encountered was him on the Jamie XX single, I Know There's Gonna Be Good Times. And I liked it. He did... sounded like he was making up words, but they were good. I liked the made-up words.
Yeah.
So.
But back to what I was saying about Riff Raff and kind of identity building. You know, in the past, the world was so much more local. You know, the marketplace idea of ideas that people lived in was much smaller. The cultural ideas you had access to were more limited, you know. Mm-hmm. Now with the internet, we are constantly inundated with cultural ideas and images that come from everywhere and are essentially constantly being invented and reinvented. And again, like, I know that, like, my idea about, like, people being a collection of memes sounds somewhat reductive, but when I say that, I mean that people are, in large part, a collection of the cultural ideas that they internalize, the cultural ideas and images that they internalize. And I think that the internet has given us a strange kind of freedom to define ourselves in new ways based on the cultural ideas and images that we can put ourselves in contact with. And I think that Riff Raff is an example of how you can do that, how you can essentially just create a new identity based on, by very consciously adopting ideas and images into your persona until they become real. I'm an actor, you know. I fake it till you make it is kind of a mantra, you know, that we have. And I think that there's a certain degree where it plays into real life, too.
Yeah.
If you act and believe you're something, eventually you will become that thing.
But, I mean, it just seems like the thing that Riff Raff has made is just meant to provoke.
I mean, yes, I'm not disagreeing with that, but that's his choice. That's the identity that he's chosen to put on. And, I mean, he has to live with the consequences of choosing that identity, but...
Well, I mean, so does that mean that he's a byproduct of the internet age? Like, do you think this kind of character could have, like, come into existence in, like, pre-internet?
No. I think that Riff Raff is 100%... I don't think Riff Raff could have been created out of anything other than post-internet... like, close to post-capitalist society.
So, that's what the little internet thing was about how, like, the internet... Well, the way he took it was that the internet had colonized RiFF.
No, I like that idea. Like, I especially like the image you were talking about earlier, where like the internet like possesses RiFF and like he's fighting on the inside.
Yeah. When we were reading the thing about like where is RiFF from, I like started saying like in a freak accident, RiFF was mentally connected to an internet modem. Like there was extensive surgery. Surgeons were able to save the body, but the damage is like unknown or something.
Somehow he had the entire series of Miami Vice and the entire discography of Vanilla Ice uploaded into his consciousness.
And just like it festered and grew. But I mean, so I guess then, given that you can be anything, I mean, it just seems like a lot what you could make, I guess, just seems like already done before. And I'd rather build an identity away from the internet and then just use the internet for like needs like information or just like ripping movies that I want to watch or something.
I mean, that's your choice. I mean, again, it's you have the freedom to do that. You know, it's like I mean, at some level, you don't have a choice just because even outside of the internet, you're still at some level inundated with internet culture, just because it is so entwined with like regular culture at this point.
And like, you know, like, and I also like watch like the Eric Andre show, which is very much a show that only happened. Yeah, like oh, I didn't show you. If you listeners, if you haven't looked up the Eric Andre show, just look up the segment known as "Everything is in the News Today." So the show is essentially a spoof of like late night talk shows, in that there's an opening, there's a monologue, and there are guests. But everything is just fucked up and destructive and like anarchic. And like one of the monologues he does is he just like screams repeatedly into the microphone, "Everything is in the news today," and then he loops it and it just gets louder and louder. And like Hannibal Buress is his co-host, and it's a weird show.
Like that's I mean, you know, again, like absurdist humor's dominance is like something that only is real right now because of the internet. And I think that...
Well, I mean, the Dadaists were doing it, but that was involved with, like, the First World War.
And also, like, that was still kind of a niche intellectual movement. Like,
that's true.
As it is right now. I mean, if you look even at, like, cartoons that are popular right now, stuff like Adventure Time and The Regular Show are all very much based in absurdist humor.
Yeah.
You know, the Dadaists never got into, like, kids' books.
That's true. They were just playing bongos and shouting at bourgeoisie society.
This is not a pipe.
Yeah. I like that, though.
No, I do. It's just, it exemplifies the Dadaists.
Yeah. Magritte.
And kind of like the strange, like, just anger mixed with the absurdity.
Yeah, if you ever heard the Talking Head song "I Zimbra," you're like, oh, that sounds like an African song. Actually, the lyrics are from a Dadaist rant that someone used, where it was just like saying a bunch of syllables, and so. Which it's a very Talking Heads thing to do, is to take that and put it over like a slightly African sounding beat. But
true.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else to say about RiFF RaFF? I know we've kind of been a little off topic, guys. Like,
I don't know. This is all relating to
a little chaotic,
internet.
Yeah.
Post-globalist,
capitalist,
yeah.
postness, postmodernist,
pre-postness.
I don't know what's happening. What is the world? Where am I? Who am I?
We're going to take a quick break after we find our identities.
We'll be back with something or other. Hey, 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 and we're back.
With our newly constructed consciousnesses.
I mean, I'm pretty much the same.
As am I.
We're working on it.
And we have had a topics.
Yeah, this is what we got for you. All right, I guess I will go first this time. All right, we have Apple Radio. I assume this is referring to Apple's new streaming service?
Yes.
Okay, on the one hand, I am kind of an Apple fanboy. I love my MacBook Pro. I loved an iPhone when I had one. Plan on switching back to an iPhone next time I get a phone upgrade. On the other hand, I could not care less about Apple Radio. Like, I don't get why everyone thinks that we need more streaming services. Like, I get that Spotify isn't, like, ideal for artists in terms of, like, how much money they make per play. But at the same time, services like Tidal and Apple Radio, I don't know about, like, the specifics of Apple Radio. Like, is it a subscription service? Is it free?
I believe it's, like, $10 for a person and, like, $15 or $20 for a household.
Okay. I mean, I guess that is better for the artists, but I don't know. I don't think anyone's going to switch services. I mean, people didn't want to switch to Tidal. They didn't want to pay as much as Jay-Z was charging.
Well,
and I don't think that there are enough artists who are willing to go Apple Radio exclusive to really make people want to.
I mean, Drake has his own show. Josh Homme has his own show on Apple Radio.
Okay, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
there are several artists.
That is
I think
interesting.
St. Vincent has their own show.
Okay, that I could see being interesting. Again, I'm speaking from a place of ignorance here, so, like, forgive me if I'm missing things, but I could see myself giving it a shot, if they do, like, a student discount at some point or something like that, where I could try it for $5 or something. But in general, I'm happy with Spotify. It's a good way for me to be able to listen to music that I want to listen to without having to splurge and buy the album before I even get a chance to listen to it. It's better than people torrenting, I don't know. I know streaming is kind of a raw deal. I don't know enough about the business to really, like, give a proper critique.
Well, I just wanted to add, I feel like streaming services came about because instead of people being concerned with the artist making the thing, it was about the consumer consuming the thing.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, if they're going to consume it without paying, let's just take it right to them. And I feel like Tidal was an attempt to make it more about the artists, but the presentation was weird. It was very much an elitist kind of thing. And then, like, now Apple Music...
Like, you pay $15 and you get FLAC.
Right.
It's like, I don't care.
FLAC, and if you talk to audiophiles, FLAC is not as good as, like, an AAC file.
Yeah.
Which is, like, stock trade iTunes Windows media player. Like, FLAC is, like, it's reported to be better, but it's about the same.
It just takes up more space.
Yeah. But, I mean, audiophiles could argue that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's not our bag, so...
But I hope, and what I haven't got it myself, I probably won't. I'm really lazy about these things. But I've been following it to see if it's about giving more content to the artist. There was that big Taylor Swift publicity stunt involving Apple not paying the artists for a trial period. And I mean, Apple wasn't going to make any money either, so it kind of made sense. But Taylor Swift was like, hell no, and then, like, publicity stunt, and now Apple is charging for the artists as soon as they roll it out.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, probably they should do that. But
yeah, I mean, you were looking at an article earlier. I wasn't really following along with you about whether or not Apple Radio means that Apple has stopped innovating.
Something Justin Vernon was ranting on Twitter about it.
Okay, so
I didn't really.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, I don't know if that's a fair assumption or not. I just didn't know if you actually picked up any of that.
I was reading actual reviews of Apple Radio, and apparently it gives the impression for being for music fanatics. So you can be like, hey, Apple Radio, make me a Friday night synth pop 80s playlist. And Apple Radio will just make it.
That's kind of cool.
And, like, you could be like, hey, Siri, play, 1976 #1 top hit. And Siri will just play it for you. through Apple Radio.
Nice.
So it's supposed to be this big thing.
Yeah, I could see myself trying it out. Of course, I'm going to wait for it to roll out and actually see what the consumer consensus is. Just because, with tech reviews, I'm always a little wary just because of all the money that changes hands. But, we'll see. Especially if they do some kind of student program like Spotify does. I could see myself being interested in that.
Yeah. Well, it's worth a look-see just to see how it's competing with Spotify. I just wanted to see if you'd give it any.
Hey, yeah, no. I guess you're up.
'Tis my turn.
Alrighty.
Last movie you saw. What was the last movie I saw?
Mad Max. We watched that last week.
Yeah, I was hanging out with my brother, and he wanted to see it, and so we
cool.
watched it too.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It was good second time as well. Though I would rather talk about Louis C.K. as a new special. Louis C.K. at the Comedy Store, and it's really good.
I'll give it a pass. Go for it.
It's pretty good. It's funny. He doesn't go for so much like statements about white people, so much as just like absurd comedic timing, and like his jokes are ridiculous. And a lot of the stuff he makes on the spot. Like Louis C.K. is really good about playing off of like the audience for a joke rather than just like doing his joke. And it's a good special. It's a good hour. You should check it out. I think it's on YouTube too. You can pay $5 for it, or you can go on YouTube and find it. So,
all right, I'm up. Capitalism. Capitalism sucks.
Really,
yes.
John, you've been for capitalism.
Ben, that was a meme that I was embodying for the sake of post-capitalist irony.
So this is true, John, speaking from the heart.
Capitalism is a bad thing. We should be overthrowing the bourgeoisie and taking back control of the means of production.
That is true. Would that be better then, or would it still be capitalism? Would it just be changing hands?
That depends on what we do with the means of production once we take them back from the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, so would the means of production be structured better so that everyone is fairly represented?
The idea, it depends on what kind of system you want to create. I am a socialist. I want the means of production in the hands of the workers. If you're a communist, you want it to be part of the common property, or in the fact that, a Marxist utopia does not yet exist, in the possession of the state.
So would that be a Marxist utopia then?
The whole idea of a Marxist, Marx's long-term picture of what would happen was that essentially because Marx believed in historical materialism. So essentially history was just kind of a straight line, and eventually everyone was going to get to the point when they were communist, and once everyone was communist, states would go away and everyone in the world would share everything at some level.
Huh.
The idea, communism is supposed to be a stateless, classless, moneyless system where everything is shared between people. If you think that's actually possible is one thing or another. I disagree with Marx on the topic of historical materialism. I think that if you look at history, the idea that every single culture in the world would eventually reach the same place is staggeringly Eurocentric.
Yeah.
When you're reading Marx. And I think that the idea of the means of production being in the hands of workers rather than the capitalist class is far more realistic.
Huh. Yeah, it's hard to believe that everywhere would achieve the same, I guess, productivity and sharing of resources.
It's a nice idea. It's a little too utopian for me.
Yeah, the two cows version of that was the ideal state was that everybody's cows lives in a giant big barn and everyone shares the milk equally.
Yeah.
But the reality is that your two cows are taken away and you're given a little bit of milk that is spoiled.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those systems, and I'm not even one of those people like, oh, communism works fine in theory, or like communism works fine on a small scale. It's just that for communism as Marx intended it to work, the entire world has to be communist. Yeah. Which is just, again, if you're like Marx and you believe that history is a progression leading towards communism, okay, you can believe that. I don't think that that's how the world works.
Huh. Yeah, see, whenever people... I always like talking about capitalism because people are always quick to decry it, but they don't really like to talk about anything else. It's just like, capitalism sucks. It's like, well, what would you do? And they're just like, duh. So,
well, at some level, people in America just... We, at some level, are brainwashed into thinking that capitalism is just how things have always worked. Yeah. Even, like, when we study history, like, they don't really ever explain economic history. They just kind of, like, let us think that everything's just kind of always been the way that it is now.
Yeah.
And so and the fact that most people don't understand what communism or socialism is. Most people think socialism is all about wealth redistribution and, like, taxing the rich, when it's... The definition of socialism is a system where the means of production are in the hands of the workers, not the capitalist class. But most people don't understand that, and so...
So would that mean, though, then, like, every person that worked would control, like, where everything goes and how it's all processed?
I mean, kind of the classic example, and the one that I go to when I try to explain it, think about a factory. Like a car factory. As it is now, the factory is owned by a rich person,
right,
who takes most of the profits and distributes some of the profits to the workers. The workers have a union that lobbies against the capitalist owner for benefits, pay raises, things like that. In a socialist system, there would be no capitalist owner. The union, or whatever you would call it in that kind of a system, would collectively own the factory. And so it would be run democratically.
Huh. Yeah.
So, obviously it would vary depending on the factory and how the workers who work there set it up. But, maybe they'd have a council of people that they elect.
Board
members. But drawn from the workers,
right,
not placed above them.
Or like somebody who's owned the family that's owned the company.
Exactly.
We've owned this company for generations, and no worker is going to take it from, entitlement, privilege, things of that nature.
Yep. So that's kind of my go-to example. And again, obviously it's not a utopia. Like, I never want to pretend that socialism is a utopian system where everything will be perfect. But, I think we're moving... I do think that we're moving towards... I think that socialism is something that is going to become inevitable in a lot of the Western world as we have... Because we have so many people, we don't have jobs for them. And at some level, computers are replacing so many jobs already.
Right.
I think that, they're talking about how self-driving cars are going to be a thing in the next, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, Google already has them.
Yeah. So think about that. Once we have self-driving cars, no more caddies, no more truck drivers, any job, no more pizza delivery guys. Any job that just involves a person driving around in a car or driving around in anything. Trains. Subway conductors will be a thing.
Get rid of mailmen as well.
Mailmen. All those jobs are just gone.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be enough jobs like maintaining the new self-driving systems to pick up the slack of all these people who are just going to be out of the workforce. And after that, they're talking about how we're going to be having retail workers replaced with kiosks and things like that. Fast food employees. Really, a robot can flip McDonald's burgers just as well as, a minimum wage high school student. Those people are all going to be out of jobs. And there aren't going to be enough jobs maintaining these things to support all these people who will be out of the workforce. I think we could see there's going to come a point where the unemployment rate, we're at about, 9% unemployment right now?
I think so.
We're going to eventually reach a tipping point. We're going to hit 20% unemployment, 25% unemployment, where so many people aren't working that essentially we either have to implement a welfare state to take care of all these people, or we're simply just going to let a fourth of our population or more die.
Yeah. I wonder if an increased minimum wage would either like make this process go faster or prevent less people, I guess, from running out of.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I'm not an economist, so I mean, at some level, I'm bullshitting right now. But I'm just kind of giving my opinion on what I've come across in my studies, because I do study kind of socialist politics I guess, as a hobby.
That's a good one to have.
Yeah, so that's my 2 cents. I mean, what are your thoughts on capitalism?
Yeah, I think what you've said makes sense, and I agree with it to some point. I think capitalism is scary. I think capitalism works, but I think it works too well. So,
I mean, the thing about capitalism is that it works, but it only works for some people.
Yeah.
Like, the sheer fact that capitalism puts so many people across the world into poverty with no way out, to me at least, means that it doesn't work.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess it depends on what
your definition of works as an economic system is.
Yeah, it's going to be faulty. Mm-hmm. But not everyone is represented true, and in that sense, it doesn't work. But for the people that are in it, that are moving the money, and they're where the money's at, I think it works too well. I think that they've got their one hand on the blood and the other hand on the result, essentially. So,
wealth inequality.
And then the gap just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it makes sense too because they're closer at the top.
Yeah.
So I think it works too well. I think you can look at situations all too easy involving and affecting the environment.
Yeah, I mean, because the capitalism is based on a fallacy, which is that you can have endless, infinite growth with no consequences.
Yeah.
And so capitalism is essentially an overgrown forest.
Yeah, I mean, there are even such small-scale things as that town that makes all the sriracha, and everyone is having trouble breathing because all of the sriracha fumes are getting expelled into the air because there's this insatiable desire for sriracha, and the company was all too happy to accommodate because they knew we were going to make more money, and they could buy more things with it, and thus everyone was breathing sriracha fumes, and while it didn't kill anyone, it was certainly an example of just capitalism and I guess
running a roughshod over just normal people.
Exactly, and there's other worse examples, but
yeah, I mean we could go on all night about terrible things that have been done in the name of capitalism.
Yeah,
there is literally an endless list.
And so I hope that in the future the increasing, I guess, automatization of jobs doesn't spell doom for many of the Americans.
Workers of the world unite.
Yeah.
They can fight some of us some places, but they can't fight all of us all places.
And I think on that note,
I just killed any future political career I could have ever had in America.
I mean, it depends on how many people listen to this podcast, and whether or not
people will find it.
Whether or not your campaign team can expunge it from the internet in time.
I've done many things before now that have exempted me from a political career in America.
Well, on that note, college. What do I think about college? I think that college is a strange place. I often question why I'm here. I often question...
But you don't leave.
Yeah. I often question what is the end result. I often look around myself and see many people trying to pin their hopes that their degree will help them get more money so they can have a better, manageable lifestyle as opposed to working 3 jobs. And I hope that they make it. And I hope that I make it myself. But I don't really learn anything. And maybe that's just where I'm at. But I feel like ideally college would at least prepare you intellectually to, I guess, adapt yourself to certain situations where you think you can get a job. But I think that the American education system as of right now is a capitalist consumer product that it gives you a piece of paper that is supposed to get you better places. But the end result, you've sunk maybe $20,000, and you've spent 4 years, and you're not that much better off than
and you find out that, again, 80% of the people you're going up for jobs for have the exact same piece of paper.
Right.
Some of whom, because of cultural stereotypes, are worth more or less than yours because of the name on them.
And so looking at that, I've made it my point to get many types of paper, so that when I graduate, I'll have a whole sheaf of paper that I can just throw at the job interviewer, and it can be swamped in my credentials and just give me the job automatically, which will probably not happen. But
Ben's resume is a 1,200-page book.
not really. It consists of a couple degrees and a lot of res life experience that doesn't apply anywhere and makes no sense to anyone outside of res life. So,
wait, I thought you were getting a double major.
A double major.
Bachelors? Or?
Yeah, I'll have a math and English major when I'm done.
Okay. But are you getting one bachelor's or two?
Two.
Okay.
A BA in English and a BS in math.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I wasn't sure about that. Cool.
Probably not anything more than that. I was thinking about getting some kind of certificate, but I don't think that's going to happen. So.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot to get done.
But so I think college has been interesting. I have 1 year left. I've enjoyed my time. I just worry and doubt about my time. So. And I've had good times despite that. So,
don't not go to college. At least try it.
Right. But I've had good times. So I mean, it's been an interesting time. So,
yeah, I feel you.
Do you have anything you want to say, John?
I agree with you. The American educational system, I think, is still at least at the college level, is the best in the world, but it has been tainted by capitalism, and it's been turned into job training. And if you look at the history of our educational system and why all these colleges were founded, they were not designed to be degree mills for people who wanted to make money and get jobs.
Yeah.
If the people who founded Princeton or Harvard...
It was a lot of theological, seminary.
They were founded as seminaries for Protestant ministers, and if they found out there were business schools on their campuses, they would be rolling in their graves right now. The business school is they should not be on colleges. Business school is fake. Business school is a made-up major for people who just want to make money.
Well, I think business school is essentially networking, but networking that's done at a pace that accelerates over time.
Yeah.
So, you're essentially learning how to network and dress nice. And
the obsession with STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and, modern higher education is really hurting the humanities, which, in my opinion, is supposed to be the focus of our university system because we pioneered the liberal arts education.
And as a result, the humanities have become almost a joke of themselves in an attempt to make themselves at least more culturally relevant and not doing any good work.
And we shouldn't have to do that. As someone who's passionate about the humanities and in the humanities, the value of the humanities isn't monetary.
Right.
It's self-evident. If you don't see value in the humanities, you are a shell of a person.
Well, but that's a funny thing to say, though, because I feel like a lot of people view reading a work as just a collection of signs that point to something else.
Yeah.
And, point to some meaning that we're supposed to get from it. Really, you're just supposed to enjoy the thing itself.
Yeah.
And you're not, you can think about what it means to you, but it's not dissecting whether or not it's got a Marxian analysis.
I mean, you can read that way, and
right,
there's still value in that, but a critique is never factual. It's not like doing science or math where you plug the numbers in and you get your answer.
Right.
There's tons of ways to read a text, and that's what makes it interesting. That's why the humanities will never be obsolete, because you can always go back and read a text in a new way.
Yeah.
People have been reading Shakespeare for over 400 years, and they're still coming up with new ways to read him. Yeah. And they're never going to stop. And I think that's wonderful, and I wish that more people were paying attention to it instead of just worrying what the next new phone's going to be.
Yeah. But, that's part of the capitalist thing, supply and demand.
Supply and demand. It's all about, it's Brave New World. What will bring me more sensory material pleasure at this moment?
I always liked that the Soma in Brave New World never led to any, either self-realization.
Yeah, no,
or
it was just being blissed out.
Yeah, you would, play tennis with your grandma on the moon. It would be really nice.
Yeah, but you never have any, self-discoveries or, realizations about anything.
Yeah, and then there was also the poem that the dude wrote about being alone. You remember that? And like they're like, don't do this. Don't write this poem. And it's like when there's no more soma to be had, and like when there's nothing to do. Like, and it was a great poem, and they're just like, no, you can't.
Brave New World's a fantastic book. We should talk about Brave New World at some point. That'd be a fun episode.
No, I mean, I could probably use a rereading of it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Whose turn is it? Mine?
I did college, so it is your turn.
Yes. All right. Words as thought. You think you wrote this one, Ben?
I did.
Can you unpack that statement for me a little bit?
What do you think words are?
Okay. That is a good question. That is a question I have actually not thought about much. I'm going to go with memes.
So a word is a unit of culture that's reproducible.
Yes. And is at some level self-sustaining.
Mm.
I mean, it's a verb. A word is a verbal expression, like an auditory expression of a thought. It can be a very simple thought, like red, or it can be a complex thought, like honor or tradition. But at the end of the day, it is an audible expression of a thought.
But it's also just a sound
Yes.
that you make with your lungs and your mouth.
The meaning of that sound is a culturally constructed meme.
So if I scratch my armpit, is that also a meme? Or is that just me scratching my armpit?
I don't know.
I think, though...
I have no answer.
But I think certain words are essentially just you scratching your armpit.
Like, give me an example. Like, I get what you're trying to say, but I can't think of what you're saying.
Like, if I just said all of those things instead of saying anything, that would probably be the auditory equivalent of me, like, scratching my armpit.
Okay, I can kind of get what you're saying.
So, but is that a meme, though? Like, I feel like you're right in saying that words like honor and red are definitely memes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I kind of think that in the case of, like, I think that there is... I don't know this. I'm not a linguist. I think there might be, like, a biological aspect to verbal fillers.
Oh, yeah. No, somebody described it as it's like your brain's reloading.
Yeah, I think there's, like, a real, like, physical, neurological reason we have those.
So fillers, yes, but what about, like, and the? Like,
and the, like... Those are actually, at least in my opinion, I mean, they're not the most complex ideas, but at the same time, they're modifiers. They modify other ideas.
The red and
the red thing. Yeah. So maybe they're not like ideas in and of themselves, but they modify ideas that they're attached to.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I got.
Yeah, I've been reading this critic who's from St. Louis. His name is Gass, and he's convinced that words are a thought, so that when you're reading something, you're essentially thinking the thing that you're reading. And while you may be thinking about the thing that you're reading, you're also thinking the thing that you're reading.
I get what you're
saying. Anytime, like, it's, for instance, Lucy K has a joke when someone says the N-word. Like, that person doesn't have to say the actual N-word, but they've made me think it regardless. Mm-hmm. Like,
I get what you're saying.
So, like, words are in some sense thought, and when you talk to yourself or when you're thinking, yeah, you think in images, but ultimately you're thinking in words. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm thirsty, I might picture to myself where the water is, but I'll probably say, I need a drink. Mm-hmm. Or, I'm thirsty, the water is in the cupboard next to the yellow thing. Which is, where it is in my picture. But, like, a painter doesn't paint to himself when he thinks. A painter is like, I need to paint. Like...
Yeah.
Like, and, like, a director doesn't think in movies. He thinks in words. Mm-hmm. But he, like, can picture the movie because, that's part of it. But, like, thought about the thing that you're thinking.
It's kind of a chicken and egg thing where, like, what comes first in our mental process.
Right.
Like, words or images. Or is it more complicated than that?
Probably.
Yeah.
But he's convinced that, and he's like, a book is like a container of consciousness.
It's a cool idea.
And like, it's a consciousness that's actually better than ours, because it's perfect, and it has no flaws. And it doesn't, like, have any, it's a consciousness that works, or something, so... Which is a funny thing to say, but yeah, I'm not sure I entirely agree with him, but it's an interesting thought to think, so...
I agree. There's definitely some interesting ideas in there. Even if I agree, I don't think I completely agree with his statements on what a book is. Well,
then what do you think a book is, John?
I mean, I think it can be I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's a perfect container.
Well, if it's made well, it is.
But even then,
think about it. If it's made well, every sentence is a thing in itself, and it reflects the thing itself. If it was perfect,
there wouldn't be any ambiguity to texts.
Well, okay, good point. But if it's good, though, then every sentence reflects the whole thing.
That's true, but the fact is that I feel like if it was a perfect consciousness, then the book would perfectly communicate the author's intention. And as we know, as two people who have studied literature, that is not the case.
Well, in some, yeah, but in some books, I would say it does.
Name a book that perfectly encapsulates the author's intention, and no one has ever had a different reading because it is that clear.
Well, sure, you can have a different reading, but if you read a book and you were like, I don't know, the tone was off, there seemed to be one thing and then something else happened, and it didn't make any sense, then I would say that's not a good book. But if you read a book all the way through and you're just like, everything made sense, all the parts worked, like, sure, there were maybe asides and diatribes, but nothing felt out of place or didn't make sense.
But if the author's... Okay, when an author writes a book, for the most part, he has an idea of what that book means.
Right.
You know, if I write a book about capitalism... I think it's a book about capitalism.
Well, all right, so nonfiction, yes.
No. I'm talking like, okay, I'm writing a novel, and the central metaphor is like dehumanization in a capitalist society. I can write that book, and I can think that it's about that, and I can send it to the publisher, and, you know, maybe the publisher reads it, and they agree with me about what it's about. But then it gets to somebody, and that person thinks that it's a metaphor about abortion.
Well, that person is dumb, John.
Not necessarily, because they might have just read it differently.
Well, fine, but
their brain put the parts together the right way. So even if it still made a coherent, sensible picture to them, they still ended up with a different picture than the one that I had in my head.
Well,
so to me, that is not a perfect slice of consciousness. If it cannot communicate perfectly, it is not perfect.
But the person that thinks it's about abortion is obviously clear about what it means. So he didn't read it and think, maybe it's about abortion, maybe it's about dehumanization of capitalism. But to him, it makes total sense what it is.
Yeah.
So it has communicated something.
It's communicated, but it has not communicated perfectly.
Well, it hasn't communicated the original intent.
Yeah.
But after he makes it, it's divorced from him.
The death of the author.
Right, yeah. He has no control over how someone reads it.
Yeah.
As long as they read it well and good and truly.
But how is it perfect? I don't get how that's a perfect piece of consciousness if it cannot communicate the intention of the one who imbued it with consciousness, whose consciousness this is.
Well, I think that person who thought it was about abortion is dumb.
But that's just one potential reading.
Well, that's a dumb person. Their consciousness isn't perfect, John. The book's is. I'm not saying I agree with this, but that's, I mean, because either, I don't know.
I don't know either, Ben.
Like, if I make something that has two sides, and one black side and one white side, and somebody fails to see the other side, like, wouldn't that be the fault of them, not the thing itself?
I don't know. I don't know if those two things are necessarily comparable. I don't know if the simplicity of a black and white thing being seen as the wrong color by someone is comparable to an entire text being interpreted in
the completely wrong way.
There is no completely wrong way to take a text.
Yeah, there is, John.
I don't know.
I could read Moby Dick and be like, oh, you know what it's about?
If you can provide textual evidence.
You can provide textual evidence for anything, John.
Yeah, that's why we have, like, every single Shakespeare play is apparently a metaphor about being gay.
No, it's not.
But that's what some people will argue.
That's because they're academics who need to provide for their fucking tenure because that's all the American system is.
Hey, watch it. I am an academic in training.
Well, John, I trust that you will read things well and truly and come up with interesting, original ideas as opposed to trying to jerk off academically so that you can keep your tenure boner.
But I want tenure, so I never have to do real work.
I don't know what to tell you, John. I don't know what to tell you.
Tenure is the dream.
Yeah, it's the dream, but it doesn't justify shitty things. Sure, you can, talk about Shakespeare's sexuality, but ultimately it doesn't matter. The author of something is the dregs that follows it around. So,
Ben, I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this one, because I feel like we're just talking past each other at this point.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just like this idea. It's an interesting idea, and I'm
not disagreeing with you. I don't agree on one particular point of it.
All right.
And even then, again, I might be misreading Gass's text on what he thinks texts are.
Yeah.
It's quite possible. So I'm going to leave my thoughts where they are. You can say any final words you have, and it's been an entertaining evening, ladies and gents.
Listeners, question everything. That's all I have to say.
Question everything. Subscribe to the new YouTube channel.
Yeah.
We'd love, comment, all that nonsense.
Things you want to put in the hat of topics that we'll talk about.
Yeah, you can contact the show at jbbacchanalia@gmail.com. Other than that, please keep listening. Give us whatever feedback you have. And
good night and good luck.
Have a good week.